Today we're going to be going over creating custom blending brushes in Photoshop using 3 of my favorite blenders as examples. If you're not familiar with creating your own brushes or need a refresher, you can watch the previous tutorial for a guide that breaks down the process. First, we'll start with a sort of all-purpose blender. The brush tip shape will be the same as a standard hard round brush. You could create yours with softer edges for an even smoother effect, but it will be more demanding on your hardware. Unlike last time, when we go to customize the behaviors of the brush, the tool that we are going to have equipped is the Smudge Tool. The icon looks like a hand that's finger painting. Once you have the Smudge Tool selected and the hard round brush preset attached to it, pull up your brush panel to start modifying. In order to get the blending effect going instead of just pulling the pigment around, you are going to want to enable scattering. Check the box for both axes and adjust the slider until you have a pretty decent amount of wobbliness going along the stroke. Next, increase the count so that the stroke is filled in more. Finally, enable transfer and attach strength to pin pressure. Then, use the folded page icon to save your blending brush to your brush presets list. Strength is a very important aspect of blending. The softer the strength, the smoother the blending will be. The higher the strength setting, the more apparent the edge of each stroke will be. I like to keep my standard blender between 20 and 30% strength, painting lightly until I reach an edge or something that otherwise requires more definition, at which point I increase the pressure of my stroke to retain harder lines and distinction between two areas. Using this brush, you can blend out hard steps between colors, except where you choose to keep them. In addition to blending between colors, you can use a blending brush to add in texture. In this skin texture blender, I use a brush tip shape with multiple splotches of varying opacity and size. In the brush panel, I enable shape dynamics and increase angle jitter, roundness jitter, and check to add flip X and Y jitter. Like the previous brush, I set scatter to both axes, increase the count to 2, and increase the scatter amount using the slider. I then increase count jitter until it begins affecting the stroke. The goal isn't to have the stroke as full as the previous brush, but to instead leave it speckly so that its texture will translate to the painting when used. In the Transfer tab, I again tether strength to pin pressure. Using the same strength levels as the standard blender, texture is added in. The harder the pressure, the more defined the texture. The lighter the pressure, the more subtle the texture appears and the smoother the blending is. Both of these brushes have had the goal of shifting pigment back and forth to blend in different ways, but you can also take advantage of the pulling and pushing of pigments, especially when working with things like fur or hair. For a hair and fur blender, I use a speckled brush tip shape with spots of varying sizes that get smaller as they reach the edges of the brush. The setup is simple. In the Shape Dynamics tab, tether size to pin pressure in the drop-down menu, then save your preset. For strength, this will be the opposite of the other blenders. More strength means that you can pull the pigment better, which is the goal of this brush, so I set it to between 80 and 90%. You can pull with the direction of your base strokes for hair, or pull at various angles for a furry or short-haired look. This doesn't serve well as a final rendering, but it can work as a base. Throw in some different brushes and some time, and you can get closer to something a bit more polished. That gives you a pretty good idea of some of the things that you can use blenders for and how you can create them to serve your needs. If you have a request for a technique or topic for one of these tutorials, leave a suggestion in the comments below. If you like this video, you can subscribe to my channel for more, and if you like my channel, consider supporting me on Patreon. Thanks for watching.